All right. Well, what we need to work on right now is how to make your sentences more lively. Not just one sentence, but let's say a paragraph or an essay. You want to change the sentence structures from sentence to sentence so that your writing comes across more lively. Not predictable, not simple throughout the whole thing anyway. You want to change things up, make them sentences vary in structure. So here is a lesson on varying sentence structure. Okay, so let's see what some various patterns of sentence structures are. You have a simple sentence. You have compound sentences. You have complex sentences. And you have compound complex sentences. And we also sometimes have sentences with introductory elements. Let's look at these main types here. So first of all, a simple sentence is just a sentence that is an independent clause. We'll look at this all of these more closely. A compound sentence is a sentence with two or more independent clauses. A complex sentence is a sentence that has a independent clause and a subordinate clause, or a dependent clause. That's the same thing. A compound complex sentence is a sentence with at least two independent clauses. That's the compound part. Plus it also has a subordinate clause to make it complex. Okay? And then we'll get into sentences with introductory elements as well. That's kind of like just introducing the sentence with a little phrase like once upon a time, for example. And we'll go ahead and move ahead though. We'll get to that in a little bit. Alright, a simple sentence, that's one independent clause. Standing by itself, stands alone. We have lessons on independent clauses and stuff, but real quick, let's show you one. Simple sentence. I work too much. That is a simple sentence. Here's another one. I am tired. All right. Maybe these are related, right? So we have two simple sentences. Let's say we want to put them together. We can make a compound sentence. These are both independent clauses. So if we go back to our definition of compound sentence, we know that a compound sentence is at least two independent clauses. So if we wanted to write it this way, to change up our style, maybe the last sentence was simple, then I would punctuate between two independent clauses. Between two independent clauses, you can put a comma conjunction, a comma coordinating conjunction. So, and you know those coordinating conjunctions are the fanboys, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. So we have, I work too much, so I am tired. Maybe we want to make it a complex sentence. With those same two ideas, we have a cause and effect. complex sentence, again, as we said before, is a sentence with an independent clause and a subordinate clause. All right, well, there's a punctuation pattern for this, and that is if you start with the independent clause and you finish with the subordinate clause, you do not punctuate in between them. But if you start with a subordinate clause and you finish with the independent clause, you pause, you put a comma, space, and breathe before the independent clause. Now remember, the independent clause is a complete thought, so you want to emphasize the complete thought, and that's, in my reasoning, that's why we put a comma before an independent clause. That's why we always punctuate before an independent clause. Sometimes we have punctuation and a conjunction, not just the punctuation, but punctuation conjunction before an independent clause, like when we have two put together for a compound sentence. But sometimes when we have a subordinate clause in there, we don't have a coordinating conjunction. We have a subordinating conjunction, but that just goes at the beginning of a subordinate clause. So if you start with a subordinate clause, like a subordinate clause that starts with a subordinating conjunction, like because, that's a subordinating conjunction. Because I work too much. We pause for effect, I guess, for emphasis of the independent clause. We put that comma before the independent clause here. Because I work too much, I am tired. Okay? But remember, we could do it this way. So if we wanted to just reverse the order of these, we could just say, I am tired because I work too much. All right, and then we still follow this pattern right here. Independent clause with no comma before the subordinate clause. So here's the subordinate clause begins with the subordinating conjunction because there's no comma before it, and that's correct. I am tired because I work too much. We don't need to emphasize a fragmented thought. Remember, a subordinate clause is a fragment. Independent clause is a complete thought. So this one could stand alone, but this second half right here, because I work too much, is not a complete thought. Not by itself. It needs to have the independent clause to go with it. So, anyway, the pattern is no comma before a subordinate clause. There are exceptions, but 90% of the time, I'm just throwing that number out. I just made it up 90% of the time, but it's probably not that far off. 90% of the time, you don't punctuate before a subordinate clause. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that rule for now. Okay, so the other type of sentence is a compound complex sentence. All right, and again, that's a sentence that has independent clause, at least two of them, plus at least one subordinate clause. All right, so we'll use the same two clauses, and then we'll have to add another one. Let's see. So I work too much. I am tired. My boss demands a lot. Okay, so that we can add this clause here. That's another independent clause. It can stand by itself. If we put a period here. My boss subject, demands, demands is the verb. There's only one subject-verb pair, so that's one clause. All right, so my boss demands a lot. So I work, I work too much, and I am tired. Oh, I think I did mess up. Let me fix this. This is kind of scratch this out of your memory for a moment. We need a subordinating conjunction to start one of these clauses. So we just have two coordinating conjunctions. So this makes just a compound sentence with 3 independent clauses. So let's fix this and make it, not fix it, but let's use a different sentence structure like the one I'm trying to explain. So I need to, how about, because my boss demands a lot, I work too much and I am tired. That sounds good. So because my boss, of course that's lowercase here, my boss demands a lot, comma before the independent clause, I work too much, comma before the conjunction, between two, comma conjunction, sorry, comma, coordinating conjunction between 2 independent clauses. So we still follow the same rules. Okay, so because my boss demands a lot, I work too much and I am tired. We could change that up a little bit. Say we want to do that. So we could just put I work too much and I am tired because my boss demands a lot. Okay, let's look at the punctuation for this one. Just make sure we're punctuating right also. So we have a comma conjunction, comma coordinating conjunction here, right? So that's what you put between 2 independent clauses sometimes. So that's what we have here. I work too much and I am tired, comma conjunction between 2 independent clauses. Perfect. Coordinating conjunction. I keep saying coordinating conjunction because we also have a subordinating conjunction here and they work differently, punctuated differently. So anyways, no punctuation before the subordinate clause. So we've got a comma here in between these 2 clauses, but no comma between these 2 because this one is subordinate. It's not the main thought. We don't need to offset it with a comma to make it stand out. Okay. That's a compound complex sentence. All right, the next type of sentence structure is one with an introductory element. Well, let's look at this for a moment. Back at this for a moment. An introductory element is basically like saying, okay, we have something before your independent clause. So let's just look at this independent clause. I work too much. We're going to put a period here for a moment. I work too much. And let's cover up this other stuff so that's not confusing. Okay. So this subordinate clause is really an introductory element because it introduces the independent clause. But if I wanted to, another introductory element is just a phrase. So, or a simple introductory element could be every day I am tired. Every day introduces this independent clause. Right? Every day I am tired. Independent clause, I am tired. Every day, I mean technically it's part of the independent clause because it doesn't go with any other clause. But it introduces this main clause here. Okay? So those are your varying sentence structures that I wanted to go over. And, well, try to liven up your writing from sentence to sentence, from parts of your essay to other parts of your essay so you're not stuck in the same sentence structure. Have a good day.